I want to ask you one other thing about Donald Trump and the Great White Hope. Um, I've been hearing a lot. There were a lot of young white guys who supported him in the beginning, when he first ran, and they liked what he was saying about closing the borders and doing all those things. And even though I know there is a wall going up, because they don't see the wall going up, they don't believe that there is a wall going up. And they are mad at the president for supporting Israel. And so, and then now we have this deal where during this coronavirus situation, it's best to stop all immigrants, legal and illegal immigrants, from coming in right now on different visas and stuff like that. And the president said that he was going to do that, but now something happened and he's kind of temporary doing it for 60 days or something. I'm not sure how that's going. And then the young white guys are mad because he hasn't done anything about censorship. He hasn't stopped that. And I've been trying to tell them that, the president has a lot on his hands, and then he's fighting against people in the government who hate him. He can't even trust a lot of folks who work with him. What do you expect the guy to do? What would you say to those young white guys who are against the president at this point?
Well, you got to grow up, kids. I mean, there are some valid points, and Coulter's been really hard on Trump about the wall, and the wall could have gone up faster. We could have a lot more freedom with big tech. Big tech is getting all these allowances because they're basically treated like a utility, like water or electricity. Yet they're deciding who gets water and who gets electricity. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
And Laura Loomer has made incredible progress on fighting back against this. But it would be nice if the president would get involved and enforce some more free speech on big tech, who are controlling the national conversation. As far as Israel goes, I mean, hating Israel is a phase that all young 19-year-old men go through. It's up there with your Marxist phase and your Bob Marley phase. It lasts about 7 months.
Amazing.
Go
ahead.
They'll get past it. You have to realize that Trump isn't perfect, but he's the best president we've had since Reagan.
Yep.
And there's something about the right where they're not good at unity. The left is too good at unity, and the right isn't good enough. We're so easy to dismiss paleocons, hate neocons, hate libertarians, hate tradcons, and it's like, can't we all kumbaya and come together, at least until Trump's done?
Can't we all just get along? What can the president do to stop censorship? What can he do?
He can start saying, denying them these special allotments they get, this special treatment they get, these tax breaks they get. He can say, look, if you're going to be a totally free market enterprise that censors random people, then you can't be treated like you're some sort of utility. You can't get these tax breaks. You can't get this special treatment. It's one or the other. And by the way, pardon the two Proud Boys that are in prison for 4 years for a fight with Antifa. Get them out of there.
I'm confused about the Antifa thing because Antifa seem to be the radical, violent, out of control organization. They dress up in dark clothes. They hide their faces. And when everyone is hiding, they got something to hide. They know they're doing wrong. How did that switch where Antifa became the good guys and the guys who were going out standing up for what is right became the bad guys? Is it because Antifa said they are fighting against, what do they call it? They're fighting against fascists or something like that?
Yeah, I think it happened. It really went into overdrive with Trump. And the DNC essentially subsumed like a blob Antifa and took them in and said, all right, you're now the paramilitary wing of the DNC. In other words, you are the establishment. And you check out these kids, and they have fathers who were in office. They have judges and lawyers who are their moms and dads. They are part of the establishment, and they're free. You don't have to pay them. Yeah. They're ruthless. They're violent. They got an axe to grind. All Antifa asks from the DNC is make sure when I get in court that I'm immediately absolved of my sins and I don't even get parole. And they said, sure, no problem. Our judge is basically your dad, and poof. So they act like rebels who are anarchists who hate the government, but they truly are the government. They're just like they're Nancy Pelosi's henchmen.
That makes so much sense. I remember I used to work for a union, and I totally saw. At the time, I was a liberal Democrat, and I worked for a union organizer, and those things was happening, but I was too young to understand the danger of it. And I thought at the time that they were the friends of America, but now I realize they're the enemy of what is
Yeah.
good. What can the people on the right do to become as one, to fight in the same way the people on the left? What needs to happen so that the people on the right can fight and stand together, even though we're not going to agree on everything? But when it comes to certain issues, we should be able to fight together and not against each other. What needs to happen for that to come about?
You can't get into the quagmire. You can't tell Mike Cernovich to start appreciating Ben Shapiro. You can't tell, Milo that Crowder is good for him or something. You can't convince those people. So my attitude is I just don't get involved in the bickering and the infighting. I don't punch right. And then I just plow forward. At the end of every show, I say, get fired, get in trouble, be brave, and never stop fighting. So I think the solution to all that stagnant noise of infighting is just to create your own music and push really hard for less government, for free speech, for the Second Amendment, for an open dialogue in this country. We really are at an unprecedented level of incuriosity and non-conversation. And this country was built on the opposite of that.
It's so unfortunate, too, because we're losing out on a lot of good stuff by not having open dialogues about anything. We don't have to agree on everything, but we should be able to talk about anything, speak about anything.
We don't know what's going on. There's a great scene in Mike Cernovich's new movie, Hoaxed, which I highly recommend. And the Black Lives Matter guy in New York is talking about Dylan Roof and shooting up the church. And Mike shows him the black guy who shot up a white church in the South. And he's never heard of that before. And he's staring at the article with his mouth agog, just like, whoa, I never heard of this. We're not hearing about things because big tech has successfully put us all in bubbles, and we can't hear what the other side is saying anymore. We come from a back and forth history here. Yeah. To go like this is not who we are.
When I tell my black family members, I'm black, when I tell my family members about the attack on white people from black people, how whites are under attack, how they're being robbed and raped and murdered and killed, and nobody cares, right? They don't believe me. They think I'm making it up because they have not heard it in the liberal media. They have not seen it. And so they think I'm making it up. And that is because it's a one-sided thing now. It's not openly. There's no open discussion and viewing of what's happening.
Jesse, if what they were doing to white farmers in South Africa was being done to dogs, they would send in the American military.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about white South African farmers, just say they're puppies. They're not boiling white kids alive. They're boiling puppies alive. That will get their interest. And then when you're done the whole thing, go, okay, just change dogs to white people.
I know what you mean, man. I am concerned that what is happening in South Africa, Mommy Africa, what is happening in South Africa is coming to America, because I've noticed that white people are under attack, especially straight white conservative men, Christian men. They're the most hated species around the earth. And in this country, you have foreigners who are being voted in, you have the blacks who are being voted into office, and the women, and they're all against white people. They say black and brown, and they're leaving out white people, and they're getting into the government, and they're creating laws that goes against white people, and the white people are so nice. Oh, look at the blacks. They're just the blacks. They've been enslaved, the blacks. And because of that, I can see them taking over, and once they get the real power, what they think is power, they're going to take away the whites' land in this country. They're going to take away their businesses. They're going to murder, rape, and rob, and the cops won't be able to protect the whites. Do you see a possibility of that happening here in America?
I guess. But the biggest problem with this sort of segregation, this voluntary segregation, is it inevitably becomes anti-cop. And the next thing you know, you have this incredibly violent, lawless area where blacks end up killing each other. I mean, we're up to, 20 a day now? Look at the south side of Chicago. They said, we don't want white people here. Don't try to gentrify this area. And then they said, we don't want the cops here. And now it's got kill numbers that rival New York, despite being a fraction of the size. And I'm just talking about the south side. I mean, you have shootings in the south side of Chicago where it's like 25 people shot in one weekend. And I was talking to a military guy who was in Afghanistan. I said, what if 25 people were shot in one weekend? And he goes, that would become a thing that would be like on Wikipedia, the Battle of Kamrub Malak, when they were taking over that particular village. Like, it would be a historical moment in history. But in the south side of Chicago, it's just a bad weekend.
A friend of mine, our friends were telling me that the blacks in South Africa are killing each other and the whites. It's like everybody getting killed.
Yeah, that's the thing about South Africa. It's not black versus white. It's tribe versus tribe. And there's about 8 tribes there warring, and whites are just sort of one of them. But the carnage is brutal on all fronts. I don't see this as some sort of like repeat of Zimbabwe or Rhodesia or South Africa. I see it as the death of meritocracy. I have no problem with the entire White House being black if everyone is there on their own volition, on their own merit. But when you start saying this has to be identity politics, like the school system in New York City right now is a complete mess because the head of it is just obsessed with more black and brown teachers. They're changing the curriculum to be all about white people being evil and racist, and it's just a lower quality education.
That's amazing. One last thing about the South Africa, this same friend told me that the murder rate in South Africa is as high as it is in our worst cities here in this country. So,
you talk about the death of meritocracy. I was talking to a South African the other day who told me that the requirement for GEDs has been going down and down. It used to be you needed a 51%, you have to pass. Yeah. And now you need a 0 to get a GED. You could be completely illiterate and you have a GED. You have a high school diploma. What? That means it doesn't exist.
That's amazing.